What's up, everybody? Welcome to Funeral Nation, episode 117. I'm Ryan Thogmartin. That's Jeff, the Funeral Commander Harbison. We are back in our respected offices, but both going in and out of those respective offices.
Yeah, that's true. I was just in Mickey Land yesterday morning when I woke up, and now I'm back over here in Phoenix. You have been on vacation. You were out camping, came in, and then going back out again, correct?
That's right. That's right. Always on the move, baby. Motion.
Hey, that's it.
It just stay in motion.
There ain't no moss but under our feet, is there? We just keep on moving.
Not recently, that's for sure. My goodness.
That's the truth. And I guess that's a great part of some vacation time. Speaking of which, of vacation time, you know, we're sponsored by C&J, and they're a wonderful team, but they're led by a guy, Jamie Meredith. And I have to just say, I'm friends with him, and I've had the opportunity to watch he and his 4 boys and wife. What a crew he's got. They've been in and out of Alcatraz. I think they let all 4 of the boys out. I'm not sure. I didn't see that piece. But they've had a big time over in San Francisco. But anyway, I just literally met with a company down in Florida, one of our larger firms that we consult for. And because of the work with accounts receivables, we dropped their AR 75% in 90 days. And guess what? They use C&J Financial. Anyway, let's go ahead and roll that promo.
What payment method do you prefer families use for your goods and services? Most funeral homes and cemeteries prefer cash check or credit card over life insurance as the preferred method of payment. However, families who use life insurance are able to purchase the funeral service of their choice and spend 31% more on your goods and services. By encouraging more families to pay with insurance, you can create a better experience for the family and become more profitable without increasing your call volume. The reason most firms prefer cash check or credit card over life insurance is that insurance companies are a hassle to deal with, and payment can often take weeks or months to receive. With C&J Financial, you can receive funding within 24 hours of verification of benefit, thereby eliminating the hassle, headache, and cash flow delay in processing insurance death claims. Let us show you why hundreds of funeral homes all across America choose C&J for their assignment funding needs, and why many associations, accounting firms, and industry leaders recommend C&J to their clients and members.
So, Ryan, what's kind of the big news we got going on right now?
Yeah, we're in that period of summertime where there isn't a ton of big news happening, but we did post a kind of op-ed opinion piece on Connecting Directors this week from Ellery Bowker, and it was kind of an open letter to funeral directors and funeral home owners talking about the end of business. And I personally, and I think you feel the same, think it was a very well put together piece, but a lot of thought-provoking material in that letter to really think about.
Yeah, no doubt. And, you know, he basically hit the nail on the head about anticipating or thinking about or training or preparing for what's next.
Right.
We seem to typically go through our day working. We don't think about our business, what's down the road. You know, cremation's changing. We've got the personnel changing. We have people who are not using the big real estate pieces. You know, thinking about if I started a new funeral home today, what would it look like?
Right.
You know, can I create my new model based on the current model I have? I don't think enough of that conversation is going on. And, you know, bottom line is revenues are going down. Revenue per call is going down. What are you doing to fix that? Anyway.
You know, it's really interesting, Jeff. You get to deal with, I think, more of the older regime funeral homeowner succession planning and getting things in order financially with them. I get to speak to a lot of the younger millennials. Not that you don't, but the majority of who I get to have conversations with are younger people who are frustrated with the way things in their firm are going. And, you know, it's interesting to see how many fathers and grandfathers and mothers and grandmothers are trying to protect the younger generation and do what they think is right. But at the same time, as they're trying to protect, what they're really doing is choking the oxygen out of the business because they're resisting all of what's changing and being able to utilize tools to help better position the next generation when they take over the firm. So what they're trying to protect from is exactly the thing that they're doing, by having this chokehold. And I really think that Ellery hit the nail on the head with rethinking the business model and just, it's time for a lot of people to step out of the way.
Right. We just have to face it. The current and old funeral model is broken. It just doesn't work anymore. Yeah. And consumers have changed. We see quite a bit of shifting away from religion. That's based, frankly, why do we have chapels at funeral homes? Because it's a religious based ceremony. So those things are being moved away, and either you pay attention or you get left behind. And there's going to be folks that are left behind. Who brought us this commentary today, Ryan?
The great people at Sitch Casket, just disruptors. That's it. They're disrupting. They are grabbing market share right and left, and it's pretty exciting to watch. So let's roll that promo.
Funeral Nation is sponsored by Sitch Casket. Sitch has changed everything for funeral homes facing declining profits from cremation, with casket quality equal to the top domestic brands, but at half the cost or better. Sitch. Only your accountant can tell the difference.
Well, Ryan, I'm excited today. We have Mark Krause from Wisconsin, who is basically going to give us a little story from the other side. We had Christine Hinches on a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been about 2 weeks.
About the Wisconsin court-based decision about cemeteries and funeral homes. So let's go ahead and roll the interview with Mark. Mark, welcome to the Funeral Nation show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, we appreciate you coming on from Wisconsin. If you will take a few moments and introduce yourself and share with us a little about your professional background and career.
Oh, as sordid as it may be. Well, Mark Krause, funeral director for getting close to 40 years, so a long time. Currently the president of a third-generation business. We've been in business since 1933 and have the honor of being involved in many different things. Most notably, I'm past president of the ICCFA, one of the founders and past president of the Funeral Service and Cremation Alliance of Wisconsin. Have presented to many different conferences and educational opportunities, nationally and internationally. Just got back from China, actually, 2 weeks ago, where I spoke at the Chinese International Funeral Expo, which basically consisted of the Pacific Rim, Australia, Thailand, Japan, Korea, and spoke on a number of different topics, including funeral innovation, branding, current funeral practices in the United States, and women in funeral service and how important that has become in the United States.
Excellent.
So, well, quite honored to be able to be asked to have done that.
Yeah, that's quite a conference. I went a few years ago to the Asia Expo and had the opportunity to present there. It's a wonderful experience.
It was huge, absolutely huge, and quite hot. 95 and 100% humidity the whole time.
Wow. Wow. Well, Mark,
that's a good spicy food, though.
Very good. Well, Mark, we wanted to have you on the show today because we had Christine Hinches on a few weeks ago to discuss the recent court decision in Wisconsin. Could you please share your thoughts and views on that decision that was made?
Yes. First of all, I'm extremely pleased of the outcome. I think not only does funeral service in Wisconsin win with that decision, but the consumers of Wisconsin win. I think on the surface, you look at this issue, in the 10-second soundbite that comes from the opposition, well, of course it makes sense that there should be combinations and we should be able to do this, and it just impedes our business and our rights are being infringed upon. It's not constitutional. Well, the courts had found it's quite different than that. As you drill into this issue, you find that there's lots of differences in why this law has been put in place. You go back 80 years ago when this law was put in place, it was done for consumer reasons. The legislature looked at it as funeral homes and cemeteries have competing interests involved here, and they were a good check and balance. And so they put this regulation in place. And so for the past 80 plus years, businesses like myself, funeral homes and cemeteries had set their business models up based on this law. And how funeral homes and cemeteries are regulated is so completely different. And because of that, now we put our business models in place. So funeral homes, we put our businesses up in neighborhoods. We put them on street corners, Main Street America, so to speak. And obviously, you look at why do the cemeteries want to overturn this law? Because they can put up a funeral home tomorrow where we can't tear down neighborhoods around our businesses and create cemeteries. Think about that. But this really kind of comes back to the main issue is its exit strategy in the sale of the businesses. This is why they want the combinations. This isn't a consumer-driven issue by any means. Consumers aren't clamoring for this to happen. This is the cemeteries, and especially the privately held cemeteries, look at this issue as an exit strategy. Who's going to buy their cemetery when it comes time to sell their cemetery? All right? And a cemetery, you'll have to agree, is worth more if they can have a combination. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Certainly.
And so think about now who stands to benefit from that combination being in place. Not only is it the person selling the cemetery, but it's the people that are brokering the sale of that cemetery. So, of course, they're going to be in favor of this also. The state looked at this as a consumer protection issue. Absolutely. They look at the vulnerability of people at the time of someone dying. And they looked at it as they have a rational basis to be concerned about this. Now, Wisconsin is one of 9 states that have anti-combination legislation. And interestingly, most of the states that have combos never had any legislation in regards to any of this. So that made Wisconsin different. We had legislation in place. So now we had to deal with it and put businesses in place and do all sorts of different things. The circuit court judge that initially ruled on this and gave us a summary judgment in favor of the state and the law in place said, who's to say Wisconsin doesn't have it right? Maybe we don't have those consumer issues because of this law. And you look at the Funeral Consumer Alliance and the study that they've done on combination states. And basically that study says where combinations are in place, what they do is they artificially drive down price, get rid of competition, and then raise prices 40%. And they've got a study that shows different states that have put this in place. So the state does have a rational basis for wanting consumer protection here.
So you're saying that states with combinations, their funeral prices are 40% higher than non?
Not all of them, but according to this study, they can show you certain. Kansas City is a perfect example. That's one of the cities that they studied. There's multiple instances around the country where this has happened. I know that the people on the other side of the issue will say, well, their objections are not factual, but there are studies that come into play. You know, a wonderful person that I know, Bob Fells, the attorney for the ICCFA, love him dearly, good man. And he always said, well, where you come down on an issue usually depends on whose ox is getting gored. And so, right? And wise comment. And certainly the ICCFA and the cemetery-based group that, you know, here I am past president, this is an issue for them. And so they absolutely have to come down on these things. Funeral homes and cemeteries are regulated so differently. We have to follow the FTC. We have to have general price lists that are presented on demand to consumers. Cemeteries don't have those issues. There's a consumer issue. There's how we're regulated differently. In Wisconsin, amazingly, cemeteries, for-profit cemeteries don't pay property taxes. That's, you know, so here, the consumer is subsidizing cemeteries. I'm subsidizing cemeteries now to compete against me. off of land they've acquired tax-free after all these years.
Right.
That's kind of an issue. Trusting laws in Wisconsin are different. They're regulated differently. Certain parts of the cemetery trusting issues, they only have to trust 40% in many of the funds that they receive on pre-need. Interesting. So how do you unravel all of this so that there's equity and fairness? It goes back 80 years. How do you unravel all of these issues? You really can't. And they're often saying that the consumer wants this. The consumer is compelled. They want combinations because it makes it. Well, I don't see people protesting and knocking down doors saying that they want this. Again, it comes back to consumer protection and exit strategy for those that want to sell their cemeteries. And it also comes back to companies wanting combinations because there's a greater revenue stream for them. Going back to what was said in the earlier interview, cemeteries need to change their business model. Well, absolutely they do. Cremation is coming into place. And again, consumer protection is huge. I think what happened back in the 60s, and one of the things that compelled people to look at cremation, the cemeteries, I think, where they had an opportunity that they lost. They never made the committal service and the cemetery piece of the funeral process compelling. They actually penalized people for wanted it be outside of our hours. You got to pay overtime. You want it on a weekend when most people are friendly to coming to funeral because they're off of work. They penalized them with weekend hours. A huge piece is the hospitality thing. After funerals, what do people do? They have receptions. They have luncheons. There's a whole industry there that they refuse to jump on.
Right.
That they could have made the cemetery portion of the funeral process compelling and necessary and meaningful. Now you have people scattering.
Right. Interesting that you mentioned that, because you're one of the forebearers of changing the model and doing things differently than others have. There was a great piece, in fact, we talked about it early on the show today, from Ellery Bowker about just not asking what's next. And you've been one of those guys that have. I was just at a cemetery down in Florida this week earlier, and they have adjusted for what's next. And frankly, that little space that a cemetery plot would typically go for one person, using it for cremation is more profitable, actually.
Yeah.
But, who's going to be out here and ask for what's next, basically, in order to change their model? So, one of the reasons we did want to have you here is that we did talk to Christine a few weeks ago. It's great that we have two presidents of the same organization. That's what I love about it.
Opposite sides of the coin.
That's right. That's right. It's not such a bad thing. But what we do appreciate and what we see is that we're having conversation about subjects that we need to pay attention to for our overall industry and profession. Because, again, you've got some states with, some without. We have states with no regulation at all, and we have some that, and somehow they function.
Every state is different. Absolutely. And we all have our ponds to swim in, so to speak, depending on the state that we have. You look at cremation, and in Wisconsin, funerals, homes, cemeteries, and there's standalone crematories. And we're all licensed in a certain way. And when that law came into place, we didn't try to regulate people in or out. Everyone that had what they had at that point, let's regulate them the same way.
Right.
And so I guess it kind of comes back to this law. You could change things in midstream. There's always going to be a winner. There's always going to be a loser. There's always going to be someone whose ox has been gored, that they don't like it, but the law is the law. And what I view it as not being, it is the law as it was ruled. It is constitutional. The state had a rational basis to protect consumers. You know, and the legislators also looked at it the same way. I mean, overwhelmingly, they looked at it the same way.
Right.
Out of all of the legislators in the state of Wisconsin, there's 99 assembly people. There's state senators. There's a bunch of them. Only 2 people signed on to overturn this bill.
Wow.
Out of all of those people. Well, maybe there's a reason for it. And as the courts ruled, the court isn't there to be a super legislature. The court is there to decide on if these things are legal or not. Does the state have rational basis to support this law? And it came back again to consumer protection.
And apparently it did, so there goes the ruling. Well, Mark, you're certainly one of the leaders in our industry and a great example of what to do. And I had the pleasure of meeting with you not long ago at one of your facilities, and it's phenomenal.
Okay.
That kind of place. We just don't have a cigar smoking section, but we do have a bar.
Well, you can smoke cigar. We have a nice patio area that you can actually have a glass of wine and have a cigar on legally.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I just have to make sure that one of my friends or I died between May and about September.
Right. Otherwise, bring your parka.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, well, look, thanks for being on the show and sharing this with us. Again, the wonderful part about our industry is that we do have different views. However, we do express them in respectful and wonderful ways. We give each other a hug. We clank the glasses together. We smoke a cigar. So I don't agree with you, but I'm still your friend.
Well, and I think that's an important point. We're all good people. We're all colleagues. We can have opposing points of view, and it's still okay.
That's right. Well, thanks for being on the show, and I'm sure we'll cross paths here not too long from now again.
All right. Well, you take care, and thank you for having me on your show.
Thanks, all right. Mark. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You know, Jeff, Mark brings up some good points and just more fodder for the conversation. I'm interested to see if we put this to a vote to the FNers. What side of the fence are they falling on? Was this a good decision, bad decision in Wisconsin?
Yeah, we were just talking about the model. Is this good for the profession overall, or is it something that maybe a challenge down the road to be challenged again? In either event, I think it's wonderful that we can have the conversation.
That's right.
Interesting, we had 2 ICCFA presidents, one on one side, one on the other. So that just shares how diverse and interesting our business is.
That's it. It's been a great conversation, and talking about how diverse business is and interesting. These guys are helping business owners change their model. It's pretty powerful stuff. Our good friends at Live Oak Bank, and they've got a new promo, so let's roll that one.
Introducing a new way for cemetery owners to grow their business. The Inventory Growth Loan, powered by Live Oak Bank. Want a better way to expand your inventory than the traditional pre-sale plans? Build and grow your businesses now. The Inventory Growth Loan leverages the value of newly constructed mausoleums and columbaria to get your expansion project moving sooner. Whether you're an existing cemetery needing to increase your number of crypts or a funeral home looking to add a memorial garden or columbarium, this product is your potential game changer. The Inventory Growth Loan recognizes the cyclical nature of cemetery sales. So when sales are low, enjoy less strain on your cash flow. When sales are strong, pay down more of your principal. A more aggressive principal paydown shortens the life of your loan and fuels further expansion. Plus, our online management system allows you to easily manage your new inventory, monitor sales, review payments, and check your loan balance all in one place. The system also automates disbursements after each sale, then updates your loan balance, which helps you stay connected to your business's performance. The Inventory Growth Loan is faster and more flexible than traditional loans, which allows you to pay less and retain more value. Ready to grow? Contact us and learn more about the Inventory Growth Loan, powered by Live Oak Bank.
All right, Commander. This wraps up episode 117 in the books. I've got no idea what's planned for next week. Do you?
Oh, I certainly do, but I don't want to put too much out here because we have to hold everybody on the edge.
That's right. That's right.
It'll be fun. Actually, I think it's going to be interesting, the conversation that we'll have. Anyway, Champ, thanks a lot. Hey, by the way, how about step back a little bit? Let's take a look at that outfit, man, the front to back.
This one's just for you, Jeff. This is America.
America. Yeah, I'm digging that, man. I salute that flag, buddy. Yeah, you're looking good. Well, look, say hey to your family.
I'm almost as tan as you.
You look good, So say hey to the family, and we'll connect up next week. And FNers, thank you for what you're doing out there, keeping our business rolling.
All right. Until next time, have a great effing week.
Peace out.